Welcome back to Hacker Hangouts on a Saturday morning, and we're live streaming yet again on an interesting topic. Because this topic, when Gowrie first mentioned it, was like, "Oh, is it imposter syndrome? Did you did a thing? Why doesn't it count?" And he's like, "No, but also maybe." So give us context, or give me context on what the topic is that you threw out.
So this came up when I was out to dinner with a good friend, and they had just gotten promoted, and they were kind of lamenting the fact, kind of because it didn't feel like an accomplishment. It somewhat felt like it was inevitable, and we kind of explored that a little bit in our conversation at dinner, and it felt like it's a bit of imposter syndrome, but I think the imposter syndrome is like the end result of this, as opposed to it being the thing that we were talking about directly. And what it is it starts to feel like when you have momentum in your career or whatever it is you're doing, life in general, when you've built sufficient momentum, what are objectively accomplishments in your life pass by with what feels like a big shrug, right? And it doesn't feel like it, like in the moment, like, oh, maybe you get that piece of paper and you're happy for a day, and then the next day it's just like, okay, now what? And it just feels like a big shrug, but failures still feel like failures. And so there is this kind of, we both kind of sat there talking about this, and we're like, why is that? Why does what is objectively an accomplishment? You got promoted at work, you graduated high school, right? You graduated college. Like all of these things, society has told us, A, they're accomplishments, but B, they're also expected of you. So there's an expectation that these things will occur. And that kind of robs you to an extent of what is legitimately an accomplishment of some kind. I mean, there's plenty of people that this doesn't apply to, and they're fed with a silver spoon their entire lives, and they just fail upward. But
Well,
we're going to put those aside.
I think I know when you're talking, I'm thinking that there's two categories though, because I think you have the categories of things that are expected, that you will graduate high school, that you will graduate college, that you will get a job, that you will get married, that you may eventually have kids. Like these kind of like all these like it industry. Gosh, I want to say industry standards. Such a tick. I'm like, gosh. But I think that there's those ones which are expected, but then there's other ones which I think are unique, which are goals you set for yourself. I set a goal for myself to start a business, to learn how to play the piano, to learn how to do this, which are outside the normal expectations. And I still think that you have these ones are expected. They're a big meh when you accomplish them because they're expected. But do you find, even for your own objectives that you're setting, which aren't part of the standards, that you still have that same feeling, or that same feeling exists?
I think especially as I get older, the more things I try to do that work out, and there's definitely a sense of, what is the word for it? I can't think of the word. When you cockiness, it's not cockiness, but it's along those lines. This sense of like, if I start something, I'll succeed at whatever it is I'm trying to do, or I'll make the definition of success be whatever it is I've done. Right. It's like weird distinction there, but it's like, oh, I'll put it this way. I'm never going to be a famous guitar player, but success is I learned Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star today. Right. And so you take the joys in the small successes, but then when you get up on stage and you play, everyone starts clapping and you're like,
Uh-oh. Is that me who just totally lagged out?
No, stream froze for me too. Oh, we're back.
Oh, fantastic. So
so just to repeat, you have like the small successes along the way, and then when you go to, we'll say, perform, it kind of feels like a big meh. Or maybe that first time it feels like good, and then after that it's no longer success, it's just expected. And
There's
when I say expected, I mean expected of yourself, like not necessarily expectations from other people in that sense.
do
And I'll
you
tie this back
think
to hacking in a
yeah,
minute.
do you think this is a outcome of we'll say I mean again you tend to see a similar personality across hackers in general where they have strong ambition, they have strong drive, they have that willingness to figure things out. I mean, I think you have one of my favorite, I think it came from you, is one of my favorite quotes is like, we'll figure it out because there's no evidence to the contrary that we haven't in the past, nor any evidence that we won't in the future. Do you think it's that almost a outcome of ambition where you say, I am going to accomplish this, and you're going to drive yourself there, and when you get there, it feels inevitable that you're going to get there eventually anyway. Outside of this, like, you set realistic. Like even like when I hear you set, I'm going to set a goal not to become a famous guitarist, but I'm going to do doable and accomplishable, and you're breaking it down to steps that you can actually attain. But I guess that was two
Yeah,
questions in there. Does it start with, is this just an outcome of ambition going, all right, I'm going to accomplish this. I'm not going to even celebrate the win. I'm going to just keep going.
I think that that's part of it. And I think, and I said this is not about imposter syndrome, but it kind of feeds into it because when nothing feels like a success and everything feels with a giant like next, okay, what's next, as Braden says. When everything turns into that, all of a sudden what looks like a legitimate large accomplishment just feels like a big meh, which is, it kind of robs you of that like euphoria. I feel like.
Do,
So I'll tie this back to hacking and say, like, I wonder if this has kind of a feedback loop with hacking, and if this is why we enjoy puzzles so much to an extent. Because we'll take the work you do, right? The work you do, you go looking for something in people's networks, and the goal isn't necessarily to break someone's networks. The goal isn't necessarily to break a piece of software. The goal is to assess the security of some system. So by and large, success can look one of two ways. You break it all open and then you provide the report to them and they get value. Or you find nothing and you give a positive report to them, right? So like the best possible success that they can have is that you find nothing. And so your job, to an extent, like you're going to look for something that may not exist. And so you kind of have to accept failure as the default state of being. And that failure can actually be a success, which is kind of a mind fuck of a like logical loop here that I'm stuck in, right? Which is interesting in that like the expectation is going into this process for you is that you could fail and that failure is fine. That failure is success, actually.
I
But in
think
other spaces, right, that what would be failure for you is a failure to deliver a report, a failure to actually execute on what you say that you're going to do, or a bad report that just misses something like super obvious. But in typical life, like getting a promotion at work, it just feels like it should be the thing that occurs, right? And so when you do it, when it happens, it doesn't feel like an accomplishment.
it's funny. There's two intertwining topics or two
Yeah.
intertwining things you're talking about. I'm trying to separate them because one
Okay,
of
go
them
ahead.
is, I think, failure and failure as a condition of improvement. I do think, again, oftentimes, it's mostly hackers who are watching this channel, so but it's fine. I'm gonna stroke all of our egos, but I think for the most part, our industry or people with this hacker mindset, I think one of the biggest standouts is that the way they perceive failure. I think most people, muggles, sheep, whatever,
Muggles.
those people see failure as failure. I think within learned people who always want to drive themselves to improve, always want to push themselves, people are the cult of hacking is seeing failure as progress and seeing if I like you interact with people often often who want to learn. I would say one of the biggest differentiators, this is going to sound, one of the biggest signs of intelligence, I would think, is when you have an argument with someone or you're having a discussion with someone and they're willing to take new information, readjust their view, and come to new conclusions. You can take failure and not see it as failure, but you can take failure and go, this is new information. I've now discovered a way of not being able to do something. I'm going to take that information, adjust my worldview, and move in a different direction. I'm going to take this thing that did not go the way of expectation and change my worldview. I'm going to take this conversation with this person who is very much not in alignment with me. I think of conversations, this is why I love DEF CON, because I always have conversations with people do not have the same viewpoint as me. But I think it's any type of person who can take new information that they haven't heard before or taken a new viewpoint and readjust their own viewpoint that is absolutely a sign of intelligence, hacker mindset, whatever you want to call it. But I think the way failure is approached, I think the problem comes in is when in the extreme, I'm trying to tie both your pieces together, is in the extreme when you embrace failure so frequently, you know that eventually if you keep failing, success is maybe at the end of the rainbow. If not, then you either have to readjust the direction you're going into, and that's why success feels almost inevitable, because you're like, failure is just part of this learning opportunity.
I think that's a good way of putting it. It's probably like it ties it up with a nice little bow. It's just like, no, actually, where your headspace is right now is entirely healthy and good for you. But why doesn't it feel good?
Well, that's the thing. Is like in some ways, I think like it's, gosh, I don't know if it's unhealthy or not, because you do. I think again, I generalize. We'll call it our industry, and I don't mean our industry as like it has to be cybersecurity. I mean like hackers in general, which we've talked in definition. It's always technical, like get it. But I think is that I embrace one of the pillars of that is embracing failure, and most having ambition towards whatever goal they set. You want to your ambition, not necessarily to rule the world, ambition to learn guitar, ambition to learn this piece of code, ambition to break this piece of software. And I think if we look at unhealthy versus a healthy state, I almost think some of the best success is coming from that unhealthy state, which is I'm going to continue failing and I'm going to consider driving myself, and I'm going to accomplish my goal and move the goalpost so I can continue shoving forward. And I wonder, is that unhealthy in our industry that we as general are always moving the goalpost on our own projects?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder, like, I think back to when it's not the first time I popped a shell, but like the first time I popped a shell having written the full exploit, right? Like having handcrafted the binary. And by handcrafted the binary, I mean literally like, oh, I went over to Python and I turned a bunch of characters into hex, and then I passed that as raw binary over some socket, and what came back was the little $sign or the hashtag that says you now have shell access, right? I relate it in a sense that like the first time you do that, you don't really have a good feeling for if anything is going to work. You don't feel like you have a mastery of the subject yet. But there's a point at which like 20 shells in, after you've done this 20 times, the puzzle is no longer fun. It just feels like you approach it and it becomes an inevitability. Like as soon as you see a certain switch flip, it's like, oh yeah, I know how this is going to go. And I wonder if the moving of the goalposts are like, I've talked with my musician friends about this, and I wonder if they went the distance and they're musicians, that's their day job now. And I wonder if they never had that moment where the excitement was stolen from them, because there was always a moved goalpost, but there was never a feeling of inevitability. Whereas, I approach it and I look at a guitar and I say, oh, a lot of this is logical, but there is a physical component. Like I know if I sit down for another 1,000 or 10,000 hours, I might not be as good as Ed Sheeran, but a lot of it's muscle memory, and I simply need to learn and put myself in the position to give myself to learn all of this stuff. And it's a very a piece of it is mechanical and piece of it is logical. You have to learn as you're going. When the job is purely logical, when the job is like, there's no mechanical piece to hacking. Well, there is, but like, there's no mechanical piece to hacking. It's how much information can you learn and then execute based on that information. Is there a point at which you've obtained so much information that you can look at the shape of a problem and know how it's going to pan out, because you can break down all the steps very quickly into miniature pieces that then like you never even start because it feels inevitable.
You're
like,
fait accompli. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
You hit this weird point where you're saying mechanical. We'll say physical. Is like physical accomplishments, I think, are very easily calculable because you can't steal. And I'll comment on this in a minute. You can't steal a physical accomplishment. If I do a deadlift, by the way, I'm working out now. That was the entry. You can't steal it. You can't. You're either doing the lift or not, and you know if you're not doing it. Within hacking, within technology, we'll say hands-on keyboard, anything. There is a mechanism where you go, I cheated, I stole, whatever it is. There's nothing new under the sun. I opened a back door. Other people have opened a back door. I found a new 0 day. Yeah, but it's the same stack smashing that I've done before. I found a new injection point. Yeah, but it's really only 2 directories over. It's only 2 parameters. And I wonder how often we disregard accomplishments, we'll say, as some sort of theft. Funny, which I find hilarious in some ways, because there is a great, again, little small book I would actually recommend everyone pick up, which is called by Austin Kleon, called Steal Like an Artist. And it helps with some of this because it goes through some of like Monet. I don't know if it was Monet who was the one who said this, but effectively, like, how do you come up with such great art? And he's like, I just copy what the good people do. And it was like, it was Picasso. It was Picasso who legitimately said, "Oh, I just copy what the good people do." And then eventually you came up with your own style. But is most of learning hacking is duplicating what other people do? Like I look at like when I reverse engineered the Steam engine, like VAC and whatnot. Like I was copying what I saw like Poncho do, and it was like, oh, I'll follow a thread like he did, and I'll move in a little bit of my own direction. I'll follow what this person did. So maybe it doesn't feel like an accomplishment because it's much more clear that you're stealing from someone else, or I'm using the word stealing. Really, you're going, I'm following this methodology. And you're like, yeah, but was it really an accomplishment? Because it wasn't anything new.
It's funny, like in a purely hacker sense, like we all start off in some ways. Well, first of all, Patrick Rothfuss once posted, whenever you start to question your own artistic choices, just remember that Picasso once drew a butt. And it's just like five, and it's a legit Picasso drawing, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 lines on a page, and it's a butt. I liken this back to when we all start hacking and we go to pop a shell for the first time. Maybe we don't know assembly yet, right? We know of assembly, but we don't know what the hell it does. It's been so long I've forgotten. There's like an archive of shell scripts.
Oh, Millworm, and now it's exploit DB.
Yeah, exploit DB and Millworm, right? We all start by like someone tells us this thing exists, and you're off doing like Over the Wire or some other war game, and the first thing we do is just like copy and paste all of these things and see which one works, if they work. Mm-hmm. And then the next step is just like, well, it didn't work, but it sort of worked because I can see that it broke in some way. So this one, I'll figure out how this one works and then modify it if possible. And Nitekri, there we go, has said, it's better to lose dopamine rush towards accomplishing goals to drive you to the next. In my opinion, learning is better versus the latest likes or cat videos. But the point being, um, that like that ability to just pivot and say like, well, yoink, I didn't come up with this myself, but I'm going to yoink and then pivot it so that I can still achieve my goal is interesting. But yeah, it kind of feels like cheating in a lot of ways. Of like, well, I cheated to get here. It wasn't all my knowledge, but I feel like that's just life in general too. Like we're all standing on the shoulders of giants.
I,
Like learning to brush your teeth is not something that is innate. You don't come out of the womb having learned to brush your teeth. Someone had to force you to do it painfully for many years.
yeah, and there in I always attribute this to like tying shoes and look at like my daughter and go like, I know I can tie your shoes better than you can, and then I go, yeah, because I've had years, decades of experience for it. But you're like, I don't want to have her in college and I'm like tying your shoes for her, so she has to completely be awful at it, and I need to sit there and watch her be awful at it because that's the only way she's going to learn at. It's interesting though. There's something you said of which made me think of programming. I think it's a lot of other things. There's like a good step, like I have accomplished a thing where like I've been programming what started as like a remote control, like to like agent type system where I install an agent and I can control it remotely, to now it's like a full blown C2 system. And I had this idea to do remote control over effectively the same protocol that Zoom uses, because you do a peer-to-peer networking with it and everything. But when I was doing it, it's like, oh, I got it working. Yeah, but it's not as stable as I need it to be. Okay, then I'm going to fix it. You go, okay, I fixed that. But now I need to be able to escalate up to like a system level or high fidelity shell. Like, oh, but okay, I've done that, but it's not as stable now. So you almost, again, it's moving the goalpost of what was the original accomplishment. And then it's like, I'm going to just keep moving it here. I don't know. Like, I feel like in some ways go on. I'll jump in.
Oh no, I was gonna liken this back to when I discovered on Linux syscall user dispatch existed. And syscall user dispatch is a thing that lets you basically intercept syscalls without them being executed by the kernel, and then you can do whatever. It was originally designed for Wine, the Windows environment. Wine is not an emulator, but it's like an execution environment that lets you run Windows executables on Linux. And it was originally designed for it and then never used. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure I can just intercept libc with this, which is the basis for more or less all programming on Linux, to simplify things. And then I wrote an interface to do that. And I was like, yeah, but it's not fully stable. Like it doesn't fully handle the signal thing. So like I went and I not emulated, I virtualized the signal system. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't quite handle the fork syscall correctly. So I went and I solved that. Yeah, but it doesn't quite do. So it's not perfect yet. But then what I had at the end of it, where I was like, I was satisfied, but I wasn't happy with it. What I had was effectively a userland rootkit. And I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not great, but it does the job. And then other people are looking at me like, dude, this is fucking black magic. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, I'll call it gray magic. Like, it's not quite the dark arts.
It is kind of interesting because you, even with like, gosh, I made me think of a story that happened this past week, which was, I thought I was doing something super clever, and it was super clever. Going back to that agent thing and doing high fidelity, I'm like, well, how about I make it so I can push a button and then make this so it will install itself and run on boot up? Like, this would be great. But I want to do compatibility against Mac, Darwin, Mac, Linux, Windows. And installing services on any three of these is very, very different. So I'm splitting my code and going, okay, it's in Golang. So it's like, I'm doing it in Windows, I do it in this, and it got it all working, but I was having some weird issue in Mac, which no one's going to run this thing on Mac, but it's like, now it's just like, I'm in my head, like I don't care if no one runs
must.
It must work. Have an issue, finally get frustrated, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you like figure out what's going wrong with this? And it legitimately goes, like, writing this type of thing is highly sophisticated and very hard, and it's a great undertaking that you did this. But this is also why libraries like this exist, to do all of this for you. It was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
the
that moment, ChatGPT just dunked on you hard. They were like, "Yeah, so somebody's already done this, and you suck."
Oh gosh! The one thing that lasts about 10 seconds, I clicked on the link it gave me, and it brought me to a non-existent library on GitHub, and I'm like, "Did you just troll me?" And then I I googled it for it, and it did exist, but it was like one of these things of like, "Are you kidding me?" In this moment,
Yeah, you the moment you get ChatGPT's gaslighting you. It's
but
awesome.
it's like
Oh,
it's
go
filled. But
ahead.
it's filled with this. It's like our this journey we're talking about is filled with this stuff where you're like, it's not accomplishment because someone else did it. And I think we start coming to the conclusion with a lot of your accomplishments. Yeah, I don't know. In some ways, I think we are very good. We in general in the group and everything is very good about underplaying your own accomplishments. But I also think that's the ambition that drives you is constantly moving that thing.
Sorry, my brain is stuck on ChatGPT for a second. I want to go off on a complete tangent because this
Let's
just
hear it.
happened to me. This just happened to me last night. My wife and I, they were showing Austin Powers, the original Austin Powers in theaters. So we went and we were sitting down, and there's the bathroom scene where he gets attacked and from
yes,
behind, and
number
he's
2.
trying to strangle him, and he ends up drowning the guy in the toilet, right? Like, it's all comical, it's all fun.
Yeah.
But as he walks into the bathroom, there's just an attendant sitting in there, like awkward places that have bathroom attendants. And I look at the guy and I'm like, the guy looks like Christopher Lloyd. I'm like, it's not, but like who? So I went Austin Powers, and I went to Google, and I was like, Austin Powers bathroom scene, Christopher Lloyd. And the Google AI pops up at the top to say like the summary of whatever it is you search. And it's almost always garbage, but like I knew it wasn't Christopher Lloyd, but I want to know who the guy was. And if anyone has made the connection that the guy looks like Christopher Lloyd. If you don't know who Christopher Lloyd is, the doc from Back to the Future. So Google's AI spits out Christopher Lloyd has a prominent role in Austin Powers. And I was like, oh shit, it is a cameo. And it goes, it has a prominent role in the Austin Powers movie franchise, playing the evil villain Dr. Evil's loyal and often clueless sidekick, Mr. Bigglesworth the cat. And I had to stop because I was like, hold on. AI is garbage and spits out garbage. But now I am convinced that we need to reboot Austin Powers with Christopher Lloyd playing Mr. Bigglesworth. Or someone needs to reshoot all the Mr. Bigglesworth scenes with Christopher Lloyd as a cat, because I can't think of anything more amazing.
Oh gosh, Google's is hot garbage. Like they replaced but now they've just added ads and that, so it's like you have to scroll down. I just don't even use Google anymore. But it was
me neither.
It was someone sent me a text, which was his son had asked, like, what is the hottest temperature ever known on record? And I tried this. You can still do it. What is the hottest temperature ever known on record? And Gemini spits out like 68 degrees, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's like, okay. Yeah, some of them
hotter than that. Sorry.
I mean, I think the other one which ties into here is, oh gosh, there's like some of my biggest accomplishment. I go back to the black badge, which notably, there's not that many give out, lifetime, blah blah blah, toot, all of that. But like
you had to shake a lot of hands for that black badge.
You had to shake a lot of hands.
You got really dirty.
But I mean, I look at and again, that's not, I have 3 black badges, but every one of them I can justify any number of reasons. But even the black badge I got for Darknet, it's like there was no way I was accomplishing that without other people's help. No way. Like, I think the funniest one
literally that I was joking, but that's literally how you won that badge that year, was just pairing with the most number of people, and you're kind of gaming the game because that was the most points.
Yeah, it was
so like points, you literally could not win without other people.
Well, literally could not do it. The other piece, the one which always goes, is like I despise bribe lists for any contest at DEF CON, but one of them, they had a bribe list that year. And one of them was 2 points for every purple LED. And purple LEDs for whatever reason that year. Command code could not get purple LEDs. Like he had looked online, he couldn't find them, so that was it. And I think it was either Skittles or Lunan walked up to me and handed me a bag of 2,000 purple LEDs, which they just had in their bag, which they brought to DEF CON. But it was like one of those things. I remember turning it in and going, like, here's this. And they're like, yeah, we're not giving you that. Because I think the total points for the entire contest was like 3,200. This is 4,000 points in it. But it was stuff like that which made me go back. Like there's so many times you can, I don't know, like do you undermine your own accomplishments and go like, well, there's no way I could have accomplished that with other people. Oh, in what you just said, I gamed the system. I looked at how the points were allocated. I realized there was more time if I can sit near, help people build their badges and then sync up with them after, I'm going to win. Like there are so many times within hacking contests, you just accidentally, not accidentally, will say it feels like you cheat for your accomplishment. I think this goes back again to like physical ones. You can't necessarily cheat at some sort of deadlift. It always feels like you're kind of cheating when it's like, oh, I accomplished this, but it's with ChatGPT. I accomplished this, but I used someone else's code. I accomplished this, but I really just had to learn, like I had to read other people's articles to be able to learn this thing. So it's not really new knowledge.
Although like planting trees, I've dug probably, I don't know, hundreds of holes to plant trees. And then at a certain point we'll probably buy a tractor. Now I feel like I'm cheating because I used the tool to do it. It's like, but I feel like that would be the example I use of like stealing a physical accomplishment. It's like, oh yeah, I planted all those trees by hand. But then once you have a tractor, you're like, yeah, whatever. It took 5 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's in some ways, again, it goes back to that. Like, I think people like you come up with all the different ways you can push down your own accomplishments. So I think that there's the inevitable piece, but I think it's also just how many times can I just push down this accomplishment and no, whatever. I don't care about it because I'm just looking for the next one.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think there's an ending point to this conversation. I just thought it was an interesting take on, I would call it the beginnings of imposter syndrome in that sense, because like imposter syndrome's a little bit different. You always feel like there's that expert in the bushes waiting to jump out and go, haha, I got you. You're a fraud. And like, this is the beginnings of it where you just feel like everything you're doing is fake. Or not fake, but like nothing quite feels like the accomplishments that are legitimate, clear accomplishments. Like you had to do the work to get there. Whether or not that work was easy or hard is irrelevant. You had to do the work to get there. But when you get there, it just feels like a big shrug. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I wonder,
though, because I look at this weird dichotomy though that exists of people who see the end result, the accomplishment, and go, I want that accomplishment. I want that. Or even any of us looking at going, here is the end result. And I think what drives you is what gets you off is the pushing to accomplish the goal, not the goal itself. And it's like, cool, I am, what gets me off is the work I'm putting in to do the thing, but not the thing itself. That's why when you get there, you just shove it off and you're moving on to the next thing because you're no longer excited about it. You're excited about the learning thing. I mean, we look at the pillars of hacking as one being able to pivot with new information. The other one is it's the work that counts. Like no one cares about what you're going to do. What are you working on? Like, oh, I'm going to do this. I don't care. What are you working on?
So Braden asked the question, if the result of every accomplishment is what's next, is it time to change careers? I think this is the wrong take. I think this undercuts regardless of what career or thing you're working on. Like if it wasn't in hacking, it would be in something else. Like, I think this is just a mindset of like how you accomplish anything. It turns into what's next. So even if you were to change careers, you might get a temporary reprieve because everything is new and hard and interesting in theory. But there will come a point at which the light bulb flicks on and you're like, oh yeah, I got this. And I feel like that's the point at which you're saying like, well, maybe you switch careers again. And that just sounds like chaos.
Well, if we talk
But
about,
maybe it's fun. Maybe that works.
when we talk about we call it the pillars of hacking. At one point, we could write these things down. We could write a book. But one of the pillars would be it's a strive at curiosity. Like curiosity is like what drives this thing. We had the conversation on, are you a hacker, therefore you hack, or do you hack, therefore you're a hacker? And it's the point is that of curiosity. I think it doesn't matter what hobby you go in, you shove that curiosity at it. Nothing's ever good enough. You can see this, and actually it's really weird. You go to DEF CON, you find these really, really, really goofy hobbies that you're not a unique again, we've said, so you're a unique snowflake in a blizzard of snowflakes, and you realize it's hilarious. There are these weird streams that exist within DEF CON of these weird, obscure hobbies that we all have in common. You can see this with there is a lot of magicians at DEF CON who are fascinated by magic. You have contact juggling. Like we watched Labyrinth or something like that. We thought that was interesting, and we drove after that curiosity. Less nuanced, we'll say, is coffee. You talk to certain people about their coffee habits. It's not like,
Peppers.
oh yeah, I make coffee. You're like, oh well, first I get an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe from this region and I roast it to this roasting level about 30 seconds after first crack. I then drop that. I let that rest for 2 weeks, and then I get a 39. I get 18 grams for a 30-gram output, and I put that in. It's not just like, oh, I make coffee. It's like I am driving myself curiosity. It's never enough. It's never enough where I'm going. I want to find out what the next thing is. How can I expand that curiosity? Whether it's contact juggling, whether it's magic, you're watching shows like Fool Us with Penn and Teller going like, this is a fascinating show. And I think that's where I start looking at the curiosity piece. I think because this goes back to what I was saying, is like, it's not the end accomplishment. It's if the curiosity is the driver, nothing's ever good enough because there is no accomplishment. I've hit that discovery, but I'm realizing every time I hit a discovery, I'm realizing how far the rabbit hole goes. I mean, there's nothing more probably exciting.
I was actually just explaining this to a colleague of mine. He felt very intimidated by the scope and breadth of kernel development, like all the things you have to know. And I was just telling him, like, it doesn't matter which direction in the kernel you go, you will always A, never know enough, and B, always find someone who knows more than you. Always. And I feel like this is true of technology in general, but in our microcosm, I was just saying in the kernel development, there will always be someone who has information you don't have. And they will always be the person you're arguing with as to why you need to get your thing upstream, and they think no. And maybe you have to accept their reasoning, and maybe they have some misconception because they're also in the same position. You may actually have looked at the code more recently and have better context than they have because they haven't looked at it. And it's interesting. It's the same thing. You can always take it one step deeper. He's like, well, yeah, but what if you understood the whole kernel? I was like, well, do you understand the chip it runs on? You can always take it that one step deeper. But I feel like, yeah, I guess I don't know if we've mined this hole as far as it can go, but I think we've mined it for interest anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where, every time I look over at my screen, and by the way, we have a chat, and all I'm seeing is your Patrick Raffas butt that Picasso drew. Every time I look over here. He just sent it in chat to me, and it is, if you haven't seen this picture of Picasso drew, it is incredible. It's just the way
funny
way to
thing
say
is
that.
if you cover up any one line, it ceases becoming a butt, right? It's literally 3 lines.
Gosh, that is such a good point.
No, actually, you could cover up the right line, and it's still a butt. It's just an incomplete butt. It's a boundless butt.
I don't know if you just sent that one. Either way, oh gosh, we're gonna now go in a dissertation on this drawing.
What constitutes a butt? Yeah,
that I don't think we can spend 20 minutes on that. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure we could.
We actually definitely could. All right. Well, I think we've mined that topic enough. I don't know if there is another topic. I'm happy diving down one if you have it.
Uh, I don't know, man. Like, well, we got DEF CON coming up. We're barreling towards DEF CON. We got what?
It's
Less
true.
than 4 months. Less than 4 months.
Is it really?
Um,
Gosh, it's awesome.
yeah, I do know we've had some ideas of what we're doing this year, and we've definitely had some ideas that we've passed to other people that we expect may make its way into the zeitgeist. I don't want to ruin it. No spoilers, no spoilers. But there's one we definitely handed off to somebody else that we're like, oh God, was that a mistake? No, it wasn't a mistake. That's going to be hilarious.
I,
Um,
yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of the community maps have come out yet. Just in looking what the information I kind of get access to, like I like just anecdotally, I really like the new setup. Like they made a couple changes, which I think are going to make it more feel like DEF CON. Make the lighting, like I don't think these are anything like secret or anything like that. They're just moving around like where vendors are, where contests are. They do this every year. But since last year was kind of the first time at this venue, it was like, okay, how can lights get controlled? How can this get controlled? I think it'll be nicer because like the contest area should be able to be darker. Like there was something really upsetting to me
it was,
seeing Scav
yeah,
Hunt in too much light. Scav Hunt's supposed to be just a touch dingy, little dirty, little over there.
a
Like
little,
that you have to
a little
Purell
dirty.
your hands. You have to Purell your hands.
Yeah.
They have
Uh,
Purell over there
from,
though, so it's great.
yeah. So you can get some. I'm pretty sure that Purell dispenser is a little dirty though.
Probably the cleanest thing at DEF CON, let's be
Yeah,
honest.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, communities are growing a lot.
I do think like where we were last year, it was so bright right as you walked in, and that's like the first thing you saw was Scav Hunt. That I do think what they, you know, like last year, most people came in. I guess you would call it the front door. I don't even know what the front or the back is in this contest or context. And they put all the contests at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Relative to the quote unquote front door. And so I know they have flipped everything around or that they are flipping things around. You know, I don't know that anything is set in stone at this point, but I've heard some discussions that this will not be the case. And I'm hoping I am hoping it works out logistically a little bit better. I know that the swag line last year was a very big point of contention for everyone.
I think
so
well, at least that was on the second
learned,
floor. Right? I think it will get. I think this every time a new venue is picked, it takes a couple years. I think the reason why it was pretty rough for a while there is it was like jumping a hotel every 2 years. Where I think now it's going to take. This year is going to be, I think, leaps and bounds better, and then next year even more so, and every year is going to become. But I think that there's no way DEF CON outgrows this venue for a very long time.
Very long time.
If
actually, on that point, I'm curious because you've had friends who've never been and probably have never come back to DEF CON Go, and I've had multiple people who aren't in the hacking space or artists, teachers, things like this. They go, and consistently I hear from people, actually even amongst people that are my former and current colleagues, have all said they went at a prior time when it was in the casinos and the hotels, and consistent feedback was it's just too fucking crowded.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I've been telling them recently, I'm like, oh, are you guys coming to DEF CON? You guys coming to DEF CON? Or do you want to go? And they're like, I don't think I'll ever go back. It's too fucking crowded. And I'm like, actually, at this point, I feel like you could stick your arms out and twirl walking through the conference, and there's enough room that people could get out of your way and you would never touch another human being, assuming you can dodge the obstacles, right? Like, I think we're at that point right now where there are portions of it that are crowded, but you are not forced to be in a crowd at any time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it was, I think not only is it not crowded, I think it made it so you can have more of those fun spaces. It's hard to find people. I think that's one of the things that's going to be improved with the communities, better chill out lounge, where the tables need to go. I think the the thing which was difficult in previous years, where do you go? You have to go to a hangout lounge or chill out lounge, and there's like 4 tables, it felt like, and they're all crowded because that's the only places people are working on during certain contests. Where I think now you're starting to find the places people can hang out, and you have like it will take, I think, this year and maybe next year to have names for the places. Like you think about like Caesars and not Caesars, Paris Ballet's. It was like, okay, we're gonna meet at such and such fountain. We're gonna meet at such and such place where there's not names. You're like, let's meet at the 4th escalator on the left.
Oh yeah,
there's not really
that's actually
meeting place.
That's actually really good feedback in general for the general map. Of we should have like quadrants of it labeled with names, regardless of like whether it matches anything. Just give it a name.
Yeah. All right. What names? Please don't say A, B, C, D. You got to come up with something better. What aligns with the theme?
I mean, like the CTF area, that can be the Gibson, right? You know, but like things like that.
Like the zero cool over there.
Yeah. Yeah, like the zero cool fountain. Who knows? No, I mean like that's a derpy one, but like what's the theme this year? I forget what that it was.
Access everywhere.
Access everywhere.
Which in my mind just so makes me think like there's going to be so much mesh-tastic. So much mesh-tastic.
So like I could see you just name it after you name different quadrants or whatever you want to call it, sectors after different back doors.
Gosh, the back orifice over there.
Yeah. This is all the way in the back corner is the back orifice.
Oh gosh,
I think like it's very on brand.
It's very on brand. I think like with the theme, the access anywhere. The one I had an idea for was Mesh-tastic doesn't have a pedometer in it or like a gyroscope. And I looked into it. It looks like it wouldn't be that hard to put one in there. And I think last year we didn't get nearly as many steps as we did in previous years because it was just took forever to move around in the place.
Yeah.
Where this year having more understanding, but I really want to take a Mesh-tastic device, like just like I was hoping that Cannibal with his image badge when he did. I was hoping he was going to do another like something with Mesh-tastic, but he has another kind of plan. Because I really wanted to do a pedometer in one, so you can do a shared pedometer between whoever has the badge, or at least for the photo goons, because we walk a silly amount, so you'd actually have like a running total on the badge.
Yeah, how much we walked. I love that idea. Actually, I think a collective like if the DEF CON badge had that, so that you could collectively like how much did the entire conference walk.
In
that would
theory,
be really cool.
It would be really easy because you do need a pedometer, you need some gyroscope, which is like standard, and people have written pedometers on it's not that hard to write one. And then communication, you have to like there's risk that someone like screws with the numbers, and then like there's only if you're sharing data, there's some security you could do.
You could have obviously you can have a heuristic in place that's just like, no, this number's unreasonable.
Yeah. But the way it broadcast, Mesh-tastic would easily be able to do it. You keep your running total, you could update your running total, and then you could share across and broadcast what yours is, and then people can add that to their own. Like there would be a pretty easy way of doing that.
I was also sorry, I was thinking of more famous vulnerabilities that gave you access. Obviously some sector would have to be go to fail. Who would be Heartbleed? What chunk of the conference would be Heartbleed?
Easily the medical device hacking.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that area would be the Heartbleed area because it has that's good. See, I think we just came up with a decent idea. We should ship that.
When the map goes out, we'll overlay the names. I think you'd come up with some good ones. And definitely not feed it to ChatGPT and have it come up with them, because even our thumbnail definitely was manually created.
No. Yeah, we definitely we're lazy. We definitely did. When I say we, I mean Silk, but it's the royal we. So everything he does belongs to me too. So we definitely did not just ask ChatGPT to create the everything that we put up for this.
The new
And we definitely don't do it. We definitely don't do it 10 minutes before midnight.
the image generator is the new one is incredible. Like the text, like normally anytime you did text on anything was
Yeah, it just
abysmal.
turns out garbo.
This was remarkably accurate. Like this was first pass, no correction, no don't like don't mess with it. It was like first pass, get all the text right. Like it's getting great. All right, with that, I think we've gone down enough rabbit holes. Any parting shots? Any thoughts?
Not really. I become a dad in less than 40 days. So I'm just kind of hunkering down here and waiting for the chaos. I'm sure this is going to be my greatest, like everything's going to feel like a massive success. Like the smallest things. Oh my God. They slept for 2 hours instead of an hour and a half. Great success. I'm sure that's gonna. I'm sure my entire definition of success is going to change immediately upon having this little terror enter my life.
Oh gosh, you're gonna be like, you slept 2 hours.
I mean that. Yeah, I mean that. Not in a derogatory way. I hope my kid's a little terror. Way more fun that way.
Oh goodness, yeah, you have that coming up, which is way. Before I say mine, way more interesting and way more fun and way bigger. But I am moving, I think, in the next year. So this is going to all look, or not with the next month. So this will all look a little bit different. Probably at the end of this month, maybe early next, we'll move and start moving to the one, and then we're going to start building. So I have to deal with right before this call. I was talking to Gowrie about like a complication with like 4 inches on like the one side of the property, which is just amazing that it's holding everything up over like 4 inches. But
yeah,
kind of amazing.
You have a lot of complications over 4 inches, but
with that,
get into that one, man. So yeah, if you guys are wondering why we're so inconsistent, it's because we have some pretty major life developments going on.
With that though, man, it's nice to talk with you. It's nice to hang out with both you in chat. Thank you for watching. Hopefully we will be back onto some regular cadence at one point, but otherwise, thank you for watching and hack on.